John, you have an amazing story of going through a situation that put you and your family in a place where you were forced to go without. It wasn't a chosen fast. Will you tell that story? And I think it's going to set the context for some additional
Sure.
questions I want to ask you and Pastor Ann.
Yeah. Well, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and share this story. Um, 4 years ago, actually on March 3rd, so our 4-year anniversary was just a few days ago, my family and I were in Nashville, Tennessee, living out in Nashville, Tennessee, living the dream. My wife's a musician, singer-songwriter. So we were out there just having a regular day with my 5-year-old, then 5-year-old and 7-year-old. And later that night at 12:55 a.m., I wake up to my phone going off and saying there's a tornado warning, seek shelter immediately. And in Nashville, they don't really have basements. And also, I didn't really trust the text message because there wasn't really a chance of a tornado, or at least I wasn't really paying attention. And so I went and looked at the radar, and sure enough, there was a tornado right over Nashville, about 10 miles directly west of where we lived. So I got my wife, and I said, we need to take the kids, and we need to get them in the hallway. And we grabbed them. They didn't know what was going on. We put them in the hallway. And about a minute later, the lights went off. And you hear that roar that they talk about as a train. I think it's about like 50 jet engines that are coming over the hill. And I told my wife, I said, it's coming. And she had my 5-year-old son in her lap, and she just hugged him. And I jumped on top of my 7-year-old daughter who was laying down, and I knew to kind of cover her head, and I was covering my head. And the sound got closer and louder, and my ears popped, and all the windows in the whole house just pop, 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 pop. And it was just the most intense wind that I've ever felt, and insulation and not ice, windows that were glass that was everywhere. And my daughter and I felt the pull, the suck back and forth, and I was ready to go. I was just like, God, save my family, but if I gotta go, I gotta go. And then it just stopped, and it was just completely quiet, like an eerie quiet. And I looked around, and thankfully everybody was okay, but you can imagine all the glass that was on the ground. I gave Adam some pictures. Adam, if you want to put up, that's our house, the front of the house. And you can see that's my daughter's bedroom right there. And we were just right on the other side of that door. And that's what we were feeling, that suction back. This is my wife and I's bedroom, and that's a brick wall just right on top of our bed. I think the interesting thing with that picture is the pictures on the wall are still there. you know, it's interesting. And then that tree fell on top of actually both of our cars. You can't really see both of them there. But if it would have fallen the other way, that would have fallen right on top of where we were at. And then this is actually from where we were. So when I first opened up that door at 1 a.m. at this point, this is what I saw. It was kind of an orange sky like they talk about. And I just shut the door, and I just said, well, their room's gone. Like, I didn't know what to say. I was just like, I don't know what to do. And then I opened up the door to our bedroom and saw that was gone. And luckily I had my shoes on, and I knew that I needed to get shoes on for the kids. So we went and got shoes on for them and made a plan to get out of there. But, a little bit of what we're going to talk about tonight, and the reason why I enjoy sharing my story is because it's a time of forced having nothing, or at least what feels like nothing. And we had our health, and everybody was safe, and literally not a scratch on us, which we were so thankful for. But it was that last picture there is kind of almost poetic. We actually had a friend come out who's a professional photographer and take pictures for us to kind of remember what it was all like. And I feel like that's where we kind of swept up some of the things there. And it's just this poetic, like, this was it. Everything was in shambles.
Wow. Wow. So glad you all are here, though, and safe. John, let's circle back around. What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about God?
Yeah, it's a bizarre thing to um, have your family home be completely gone and to tell your kids, hey, we're not going back to that house. They demolished the house. It was a total loss. Took the insurance about 2 minutes to figure that out. They showed up and then they called us and said, yep, that's gone. All right. So what do we do now? And we were in a hotel for a little bit. And then we decided just to get like a rental just so we could rebuild a home. And then if you're doing the math, you might have realized that 4 years ago was probably a traumatic time for everybody here as well, which is COVID started. So literally in the hotel 3 days after, I'm watching the news and it's covering the tornado, which by the way, I know a lot of you weren't in Nashville during that time. So this was the tornado that was on the ground for 60 miles. And by the time it got to Cookeville, it killed 18 people. So we're learning about all that. And then they're like, oh, and first COVID cases are coming. We're going to shut down the SEC tournament. And what does all this mean? It basically means all the support that we had as far as people bringing us meals, people bringing us furniture, all that kind of stopped. Not because they were terrible people, we were just all scared. And we were, yeah, don't worry about it. So we found a rental home that was about 5 miles away from our house that was being torn down. And we moved into it with like nothing. And it was bizarre. And I think in that moment, you're looking for comfort. You're looking for something to get you through all the routines that you have, like waking up in the morning and going to your special chair and getting your special cup of coffee so you can do your devotion, so you can get through whatever you're going through in life. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, I'll sit on the floor, with nothing. Like, it was just bizarre. But through those times, I realized I didn't need all those comforts like I thought I did. And in some ways, all of that being gone, I just had to take it a day at a time and just say, okay, this is enough. And I need to focus on my family and what I have. And it doesn't matter that the house is empty. And it doesn't matter that there's this COVID virus going around. What matters is we're taking it a day at a time and we're leaning on God for getting us through this. All right, for me, I carry this brick. This is a brick from my house. And I keep this in my office. And whenever I feel like I don't know if I could take the next thing, I look at that and I remember that even if I'm in an empty house with nothing and sitting on the floor, I still have God and I have my family, and I'm gonna make it.
Well, I'm going to wrap us up here. Thank you to all of our panelists, once again, especially to Dr. Gatobu and John.